Hello everyone, Santier here with Let's Make a Game Astral Collision, and let's see, where do I start? So I have done a lot of kind of more behind the scenes-ish type stuff. If you're watching stuff from last time, you'll know that I have gotten my backstory stuff fleshed out, but I'm not going to go over that right now just because of the video from yesterday. But it's stuff that I'll probably be talking about later. I have also very critically begun working on a story beats section. So this is getting me a basic idea of how the plot is going to progress and what the player's doing. So, you know, the basic beats are, you know, the player selects the party, then they're deposited in Kendara and told they're not strong enough to get to Ron Piety yet, but that's where they're trying to go. So, your first major task is to acquire a boat. For reference, you're being dumped probably up here, potentially down here, but probably up here. But somewhere in this northern section of Kendara. And you need to get a boat so that way you can get down here. Here's Ron Piety. So that's your target initially, is to get able to get down there. And then when you arrive in Ron Piety, you meet with the current Pope, you defeat the invading army from Mavina, and you're given several copies of the Teachings of Hannah, which becomes an important quest item later. You must defeat a heretical group's leadership. I'm not sure if this is a plot point that can move around a little bit. It could be that you push back the invading army and then you go to Divertir. But the basic idea is that you will at some point have to contend with the heretical group that's arose or has arisen in Ron Piety. Now that I'm thinking about it, I like this occurring later. But let's just add a note. So then you have to sail to Divertir because you're told basically to avoid the desert. So what I'm looking at right now is this section here, this desert section. Hopefully you can follow my mouse okay. Is extremely dangerous, and you need to avoid it for the time being. Because if you notice, the distance from here to here is really short by boat. So the idea is that you'll take a boat through here over to this area. And then this area right here is part of Divertir that's gotten destroyed by the forces from Mavina. Mavina is right here for reference. Mavina is basically attacked here, here, here. And so you push back their forces that are attacking here, but it takes long enough that you're not able to save stuff over here, and stuff gets wrecked here, and then you stop the invading forces here. It's kind of the general idea of how that's going to kind of play out. So that's kind of what I have planned thus far. It's very basic beats, but it gets me some sense of direction, some sense of flow. I've also begun planning out a document for sort of the general progression of maps. So like I expect you to start up here and then come down here. Maybe you can do stuff over here, but not over on this side. Here and here, but not here yet, and stuff like that. Where just to give myself some sense of what the relative power is going to be of various things, and where enemies are going to be. So that's been an important thing that I've started, is just kind of thinking through that. I also have been thinking about what sort of crafting is each of these places going to be good at. Obviously, I've not done a whole lot of this yet, but crafting is going to be an important aspect of item acquisition. Basically, the ways to acquire items are largely going to be random loot drops, treasure chest rewards, stuff that you can purchase, and then stuff that you can craft. And I want to be very careful about overlap in those areas as well. If you're investing resources to crafting it, probably shouldn't be something that you can just loot somewhere. And likewise, if it's a special chest reward, like a special one, not like a generic chest reward could be something that could be looted from an enemy as well, or could be bought. But generally speaking, I want chest rewards, as particularly difficult to get to chest rewards. Kind of what I'm talking about, things that you get at like the end of a dungeon or something. I want those to be unique things that you can't get any other way. So I want to be very careful about what functionality I provide and stuff like that. So, Ron Piety, I know, is going to be good at crafting healing stuff because that's basically one of the few things that they are good at. Kendra is probably going to be good at crafting certain types of equipment, Sakratina of others, so on and so forth. But I'll just need to figure out how I'm divvying stuff up. So that way, if each part of the world has a crafter that you want to go to. Because keep in mind, I'm wanting to keep a relatively flat power among equipment in terms of, like, all swords deal roughly the same amount of damage, but they have different properties. And so which one you choose depends upon how you're wanting to have your character function. There are definitely the baseline equipment, and I need to finish going through equipment, but and planning stuff out. But like the baseline steel sword, for example, is probably going to be the worst sword in the game, just because that's all it does. Is just is a sword. I've started working on the next one, which is the Royal Kendran sword. This one is exactly the same, slightly different description that I need to finish fleshing out, but it gives you, it costs 75 gold to purchase. We'll go over that in just a moment, where you get it. But it gives you this parry stance skill, which is a way of adding additional skills. Parry stance is a skill that gives you a state called parry stance, which just gives you 100% chance of counterattacking for the turn. I realized that I could add more states if I had weapon-specific states. So, weapon-specific states, hooray! I have also, I think, probably gotten a few more of these done. We had inversion, burning gaze. This is just some refamiliarization. Blood is power, I think, is a new one. So this one gives you MP regeneration at the cost of HP degeneration. Right now, it only ends at the end of battle. I'm not quite sure if that's how I want it to always go, or if I want to have it work some other end condition. But right now, that's what that does. Raging Winds, I don't remember. Again, it's been long enough, I don't remember what was around or not. But I think this one was here. It gives you more actions, a chance to attack twice, but dramatically reduces how much you heal. This one, I know we went over. Tranquility is a new one. So Tranquility gives you a huge amount of HP regen, but prevents you from gaining TP. It sets the TP charge rate to 0, so if you would gain TP, you don't gain TP. And the counterattack is reduced as well, so you're less likely to counterattack while Tranquility is on. I still need to figure out stuff for Earth State, Life State, Ice State, and we have this one as well, which makes you have to attack but increases your damage down here by your elemental attributes. There's probably going to be a few other random stuff in between here. I'm expecting some food states as well at some point. Just stuff that provides simple buffs. That just encourages you to spend on that, because let's be blunt here. There are a heck of a lot of food-related icons. I want to make use of them. So, other things that have happened is the Resurrection Signets and Resig Charges. I think I mentioned these last time, but they are now in the game in so much as stuff adds them and interacts with them. So I don't remember if I had gone over the refill res sig. In no longer sets your respawn point. Instead, I have a set rest location function. And this, of course, refills your resurrection signet. If we go into the northern village, let's pop this map in, you'll see that I now have a pillar here. And this has functionality. When you first interact with it, it displays poem, because there's supposed to be a part of a poem there. And then it sets your location stuff. Otherwise, it just sets the rest location and refills the signet. If the last rested map is this map's ID, which you can see down here is 4, then when you interact with it, it just refills the res stick just because there's no reason to set your respawn point. It is the respawn point. But also, this interactable object, normally it's blank, right? Normally it's just a blank none. But if this map is the resurrection map, then this gets a sparkle effect on it. It's really hard to see. I'll show you in game in a little bit. This is just so you don't have an equals, right? You don't have variable is equals. Its variable is greater than or equal to that. So this has to compensate. It's basically just a copy of this for if it's not this map, a greater. So not map it's less than if the rested map ID is less than this current map ID, equal to this map ID, greater than this map ID. That's what's going on with these. So there's another one of those in the center here. It's the exact same thing except for the map ID is obviously different. So that's just how I'm going to be handling those. It's pretty straightforward. I don't think there's been anything. There's not been much more done here, although I have added the door, so you can now go inside the palace. And I'm slowly fleshing stuff out in here. I've rearranged stuff a little bit. Up here is where you can get the Kendara Royal Sword. This is a Royal Armory, and he's got surplus equipment for sale. So you can buy a Royal Kendara Sword here. You'll be able to buy a spear, probably a shield, and some armor as well. But I haven't created all of those items yet. And I also still need to go through armors and offhands and stuff and figure out what I want their baseline properties to be. So that's a thing that I'll need to be doing. These are some directions. I still don't know 100% what's to the right here immediately, so that's blank. This is a Royal Bounties board, because one of the things because I've been fleshing out the backstory, so I should go back over here. One of the other things that you'll notice is there's now a tab for location blurbs up here. So these are little descriptions of various places. So Kendara is a land of adventurers fighting ferocious wildlife. They hope you find their services indispensable. So one of the things that I was realizing that I was having a bit of a problem with is kind of reaching the point where it's like not having motivation to kind of do things. And so something that I prayed about and then had the idea of, a way that I can build up motivation is to think about a description for this area. So this is something that you can actually find in quite a few games. Guild Wars 1 does this. If you click on an outpost, it will give a short little description of that outpost, like what is the significance of that outpost, and that sort of thing. These are little flavor things, and there's something that lets me get excited about the place, gets me excited about what's going on there, and gives me a sense of direction and guidance as well. Because it's one thing to say, okay, now I'm making a palace, and I know there's a palace here, but like, what is it really about? Well, if I write a little blurb about what's going on in Kendara, I can get a sense of what the different places are, and that gives me motivation to be like, okay, now I know what I'm doing, and I'm engaged and interested in this. It doesn't require much, but it requires a little bit of something, right? And in retrospect, now that I think about it, as I'm describing this to y'all, I realize that this is just a general principle of how I work. Like, I can't get into Skyrim because I don't have a sense of direction. I don't know what I'm doing. So I need some stronger sense of direction. And again, it's not much, but so anyway, basically what I wrote about Kendara is the capital city of Kendra. The Adventurers Guild's headquarters are located here, which brings with it numerous amenities, and the housing for those in charge of said amenities. You can also find the palace of the royal family, who ostensibly rule Kendra. In truth, they mostly serve as a source of funding via taxation for the Adventurers Guild itself, often by posting royal bounties. So royal bounties are really important. There is a king, and probably a queen, of Kendra, and they do sort of manage the citizenry and have taxation and laws and stuff, but they're basically the social branch of the Adventurers Guild. The Adventurers Guild is their true power in Kendra. They have sort of the greater strength, the greater importance. They're the ones who are kind of revered and worshipped. But and you can even see that influence right here with the statue that I am using to be associated is probably Sir Lionel, a statue for Sir Lionel, or the head of the Adventurers Guild. I'm not quite sure 100% which yet, but I kind of like the idea that Sir Lionel is kind of held up as an exemplar hero martyr whose image has been twisted by the leadership of the Adventurers Guild to kind of focus attention on that rather than on himself, if that makes sense. Because focusing too much attention on himself looks self-aggrandizing, but if you can keep propping up this false notion of who Sir Lionel was, then it presents him in a more humble light, which people tend to be more gravitated towards. I don't know. These are some of the thought processes that I think are underlying some of those thinkings. But anyway, so, this is an important statue that is taking up the center position in the throne room. Obviously, it's quite important, the Adventurers Guild and their influence. So, the royal, they have some guards that protect stuff, but they're mostly hold defense until the real heroes, the Adventurer Guild, shows up. It might also be a place for people to get their start as I imagine a lot of adventurers may be ex-guards. But one of the important things that will need to be developed at some point here is this is the bounty wall where royal bounties are posted. So adventurers come in here all the time in order to view the royal bounties because they pay really well. And they tend to focus on what are things that are big sweeping problems of the citizenry and stuff like that. So that's kind of the general plans that I have going on with this little section. Like I said, just royal bounties. So that's been slowly getting fleshed out. I haven't really done anything with any of the other 2 floors here. As you can see, they're the same as they were last week. Anything else standing out that I can recall offhand? I don't think so. We've got the little blurb area that I've started doing some stuff with. I'll kind of be going through this and filling stuff out by region as I go. Religion we talked about yesterday, and I kind of want to reserve that for that. Mention these things. I need to do more with weapon planning. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a peek inside some of this and wander around town a little bit. So, while this is loading, I definitely want to get stuff done with the palace and then the shopping area. Okay, there we go. Yes, continue this file, thank you. So, you can now enter the palace, as you can see. Here's this area. None of these are interactable yet or anything. This tells you it's royal bounties. I probably can enter a thing. Hang on. So just as I was interacting with it, I'm like, why is this taking time to text out? If I keep this here long enough... yes, okay. I guess I want the slash arrow. Slash arrow. Now if I save this, this is one of the things that's nice. If I step out and reload the map, that should change it. Yeah, so now that pops up instantly. I want to do the same thing over here, because having this... Whoa, that's all sorts of wrong. But having that take time is also not fun. Yeah, so now we can buy the Royal Kendran Sword, which is just better than the Steel Sword, to be clear. I need to finish this description, but... I guess it's most of... Oh, yeah. We need to go look at this. So, right now, this is not set as the respawn point. If I click on it, I'm interacting with it for the first time, and now it's all sparkly. Also, I have connected to some of that up here in the introduction, both on this guy, which you can see it right here. It gives you the Resurrection Signet 4 charges. This one also does that somewhere right here. Resurrection Signet and 4 charges. So this save file was made before that, so I don't have any Resurrection Signets because that variable's not set, so I don't get any charges. I'll make a new file at some point, but right now I'm just kind of exploring. But, you know, if I walk off the map and then walk back in, it's sparkling. It became sparkling because the thing was set. This is not the right gate to go out for the direction that I want to go, but it doesn't matter. If I go up to Calendon, you'll notice it's not sparkly. I interact with it. Now it's sparkly. All well and good. If I leave this map and come back, it's evening now. You'll notice it's still sparkly. And if I go back to Kendara, and down and down and down, you'll notice it's no longer sparkly. So, oh, okay, so I need to, that's interesting. So what I just discovered there was a bug that I'm going to need to fix on these, so I'm really glad that we discovered that. What's going on there, I need center, is this object is not set to direction fix right here. So when I interact with it, this selected that object because of its facing. So now it's doing that in and out ring instead of this sparkle up here. The way that these work is this is facing down, left, right, up, I believe. So if I were to go to a different character, yeah, down, left, right, up. So that means that everything needs to be marked direction fix. Direction fix prevents it from changing its direction in terms of what sprite it's going to. So by default, things facing is based on what sprite you've selected in the sprite thing. So if you've selected the first or the top one, it's facing down and so on and so forth. I didn't discover that before because all of my testing I hadn't interacted with it from a different side. But whoops. Easy to repair, to be clear, because I just go through and I click on direction fix. But I hadn't realized I needed to do that. So anyway, you've seen some bug fixing live. I do believe if I do this, it will reset its orientation, and now it is sparkling the correct way. But yeah, that little sparkle just lets you know this is the active Resurrection Shrine. So yeah, that's, I think, kind of an overview of what's been going on. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.